Dear Venerable brothers and sisters, Dhamma friends, today also this is the time for our Dhamma talk. To start the Dhamma talk, may everyone give consent with the 3 times sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Katanca bhikkhave atitang anvagameti evaṃ saṅkhārā ahosin atita maddhānanti tatta nanding samanvānīti katanca bhikkhave anāgatam patikaṅkati evaṃ saṅkhārēsiyang ati anāgata maddhānanti tatta nanding samanvānīti. Dear Dhamma friends, we are going to take the subject of Bhaddekaratta, or the ideal solitude, further today, specifically with respect to the volitional formations or will, and with that respect, the Buddha says whenever someone is tracing back to the past, he or she may be remembering what he or she has done and volitionally committed things as these are the things I have done, and elated and appreciated as one's own deeds. Equally, as far as the future projections are concerned, everything which may mostly related with things one will do or one volitionally going to do in future is the way that one can either associate past and the future. And of course, for the last few days, we tried to understand the materiality, feelings and perception. These are also the ways to trace back to the past or projections of the future. But today being this volition, the sankhara as the main subject, I selected this particular quotation from this particular sutta, and that is the what one has to do away with at the right from the beginning. Because when and where someone is frequented with or associated with the past and the future in terms of one's own deeds and the commitments, volitional activities that make the present moment very busy, very involved, and therefore cannot categorize as solitude or freedom. So therefore, in order to bring the mind to the freedom or teaching or introducing, one has to do away with this, the past and the future. And then invariably, in the sense that after removing these destructive parts, one has to dwell upon the present moment. That is the constructive part. That is the thesis. One has to maximize it. When doing it, one has to still be aware of these volitional activities, even though the past and the future is given up or dealt with. Even someone to maintain the mind constantly as much as possible in the present moment, there are some shades of sankhara, and due to that shades, due to that sediments, present moment also will be either with attraction or distractions. So the basic teaching of the Buddha is to bring the mind to the present moment, here and now, and be aware of the attachment and the kind of distractions with respect to the sankhara, just like the materiality, just like the feeling, just like the perception. Sankhara also makes someone's stream of consciousness little violated, little turbulent. So if someone is not skillful in it, even though the stream of consciousness is in the present moment, there may be some kind of accumulation of karmic forces. So there won't be end to this perpetual vortex. With that respect, specifically those who are practicing meditation must have the real understanding of sankhara as a theoretical basis. What does it mean by sankhara, and what are the shades of meanings within the sankhara, as well as relatively how much it is differ from the materiality, feelings, perceptions, and the consciousness. Because these are the 5 things, main things one has to be aware of it as and when it happens. So if you are to read the Tipitaka, that means the main teaching of the Buddha, specifically in the Sutta Pitaka, the discourses, which is more relevant to this subject, you may find a lot of shades of meaning, many nuances to this term sankhara. So therefore, when and where someone is talking, he has to define it for that particular sentence or for that particular chapter or for that particular topic. Otherwise, within that also, there are some diversification. That will be much aggravated when that term is translated to Sinhala or into English. Complication increases rather than decreases. And with other thing is, with relation to the other 5 aggregates, how much it's differ from the others. So it's a big issue, very difficult to cover up within an hour or in a one talk. But anyway, most of you have certain amount of acquaintance with some of them. So we will take most empirical part, most practical part with respect to relevance to our practice. And as far as the practice is concerned, I mean the mindfulness and the meditation is concerned, often the Buddha used the abhisankara and abhisanchetana as equal terms. That means sankhara means chetana. That means, yet in another way, by studying these discourses, the teachers, commentators have come to a conclusion. Buddha has dealt with 52 cetasikas or 52 mental factors. Mind and the mental factors are considered as non-material part, sometimes known as nama. So, cetasika or the mental factors are the manifestation of very mind. It has 52 cetasikas, mental factors. Namely, the mindfulness, the faith, the energy, the concentration, the wisdom. They are also considered as cetasikas. And other bad things like desire, the hatred, the sleepiness or sloth and torpor, everything come together, summing up to the 52. Out of these 52, the feeling itself is so important, so therefore feeling itself has taken as one aggregate. And yet another one is the perception that we talked yesterday, that itself has taken one aggregate. Rest 50 mental factors as a lump, everything considered as sankhara. So therefore sankhara it is like a class with 50 students. That is why it has different functions on under different combinations. But the chetana, the will, the volition, has taken as the most important mental factor within the whole bunch. So therefore, abhisankara, abhisanchetana, considered as somewhat synonymous, as synonyms in this Sutta Pitaka. So therefore, as far as any chetana is concerned, if you have any volitional involvement, you have to consider Chetanaham bhikkhave kammang vadami. That is one of the stock phrase of the Buddha. When and where you do some willfully, with the volitional, you never do away with its consequences. If you do a wrong thing willfully, with volition, once that karmic process matured, whether you like it or not, the consequences will come back. According to the teaching of the Buddha, here and now, or in the future, or maybe in another life. And equally, if you have performed a good thing, and the good consequences will come. And presently, many things we can give an explanation why it happens through our deductive knowledges and through the rational mind. But if you are really sharply observed, some things happening in our stream of consciousness, they appear to be irrelevant and out of the place. Very difficult to understand why it is happening. Even without our will, even without our volition, these things are happening. They are being explained through the karma and the karma results, or good begets good and the bad begets bad theory. And that is due to our past deeds and commitments. Today we have to bear them up. So therefore, if you do not have any responsibility towards your volition or moral responsibility, then your future or your account balance is quite unpredictable. So therefore, this understanding of sankhara is almost like understanding of our will, our volitional or directed dispositions, so that one has to take one's own responsibilities. So therefore, whenever this sankhara going to discuss, very difficult to generalize it, very difficult to draw common features related to the whole society or the whole class or whole the family. They are very, very specific because our karmic forces are different. So, and the other thing is, as far as we have transgressional kind of or gross misdeeds, verbal misdeeds and the physical misdeeds, hardly we can have the peace of mind to see our will, see our effect of the past karma. So therefore the Buddha says, those who are not morally restrained, very difficult for them to grasp, understand this sankhara or will or volition. So therefore, if you wish to do it in the practical way, under your very nose method, first and foremost, you have to restrain about this transgression kind of defilements through your morality, by precepts. So you should have the moral responsibilities. And then the sankhara manifests in two ways. One thing as the obsessional kind of defilements, and underneath there are some anusaya kilesas, that is to call underlying tendencies. So these two are the main thing, much related to the meditative life. So before the meditation, before the retreat, we take precepts. And we give that responsibility individually to keep away do away with these physical and verbal misdeeds, and then try to concentrate with the help of mindfulness your mind in order to get rid of this obsessional type of defilements, namely the sensuous pleasure, the hatred, and the sloth and torpor, and regret about the past, and the excitement for the future, or doubts. So this is a task. This is basically recognized as samatha meditation or concentration meditation, whatever may be. Whenever the mind is going for varietal entertainment, or in the sense cocktail parties, it is highly obsessed with this, the sensuous desire. Opposite of this sensuous desire is the one-pointedness. Mind take one single object and keep it face to face with, and all the mental factors will be concentrated upon that, focused upon that. So you have the chance either to enter into it, or absorb into it and dwell upon that, or otherwise see it through your inquiring, inquisitive nature, you can penetrate into that. So therefore, the one-pointedness is going opposite with this varietal entertainment known as kama chanda, kama guna. And when and where this, instead of different varietal entertainment, the mind is falling calm and collected on one object, then only you are qualified and be open to see the underlying tendencies, the anusaya kilesas, under the carpet dirt. So not only the moral responsibility, moral restrainment, upon the moral restrainment you have to focus your mind on one particular object with the help of the mindfulness and the concentration. Once that happens, you are bound to see these anusaya kilesas, the underlying tendencies. When that happens only, it is very easy someone to figure it out, see the large picture of these volitional activities. Therefore, after you taken precepts, early part of your concentration training or early part of your one-pointedness, basically based upon your materiality, your corporeality, your body. That is all kaya anupassana. You take this either breath, or rising and falling, or walking left and the right, whatever may be, you focused upon one thing. When and where that is focused, is once the mind fallen, calm and collected upon that particular object, we can do away with this materiality, or materiality is so tamed, so calmed, and it can go into the detailed analysis of these mental aspects of this sankhara. So, whenever, if you are to study this Anapanasati Sutta or Girimananda Sutta, whereby the Buddha has explained, taken single subject or single object of meditation of Anapanasati, you can cut through early phase in this Anapanasati method. Early phase, you are focusing the attention on your corporeality, the body, namely the air element, and let the mind to be face to face with the air element, and then more and more you try, you will learn the ways and means how to keep the object face to face. When that happens, as we discussed in the last few days, the distance between the observed object and the observing mind, the noting mind, the meditative mind, come closer and closer. Whenever the momentum of the mind, the material and non-material part, and the object, the material part, come into the same frequency, come into the same momentum, same vibration, they are appearing like merging each other. The matter also reduced to almost like energies, and the mind is, naturally it is non-materialistic. It is also, can be categorized as energy. Whenever they come together, merging each other, in Samatha Bhavana it is called entering into the jhana or absorption. But in Vipassana, it is not the formal kind of a, merging each other, going into each other, but they try to work in same frequency. At that time, hardly any difference between the materiality and mentality and the corporeality, nama and rupa, and that is the most important achievement as far as our yogic life is concerned. So when that happens, we can say we have mastered the materiality, and therefore we are no more with the friction of the materiality. So we are open now to go into the mentality. That means we are getting a distance from the eye and the visual objects, and the ear and the sound waves, nose and the smells, tongue and the tastes, and the body and the tactile sensations. And then you can see the meditation is just experience of some kind of energies. Continuation of stream of consciousness means you are just observing kind of energies, and up to that moment, up to that junction, we says, or the Buddha says, this can be recognized as passambayang kaya sankarang asasi samiti sikkati, passambayang kaya sankarang pasasi samiti sikkati. So far, what the meditator has done is, he has calmed down, he restrained the volitional activity related to the materiality, related to the body. Passambayang means calming down and settling down. And in the sense, you have taken the solitude, you have taken the freedom from the materiality. So when that happens, as I try to explain as much as possible, there's a huge difference in our values, in our understanding, and a reshaping of our personality happen. So many people hardly can go through this stage without undergoing fear, without undergoing uncertainty, without undergoing monotony, boredom, and many emotional colorations happens. So therefore, most yogis, those who are uninstructed and unprepared, will never go to the deepest sense of calming down of the bodily formations. Kaya sankhara, that means calming down of the breath, in breath and out breath. So if someone can go there, then he has to, instead of the uncertainty and instead of the fear and all the kind of thing, the gladness and the rapture happens. So there also, if you are unprepared and uninstructed, that also will be an obstacle. But if you manage to go through, then for the first time, you are observing the mental formations or mental volitional formation. That is called Chitta Sankhara. Chitta Sankhara Patisangvedi Asasi Samiti Sikkati. Chitta Sankhara Patisangvedi Pasasi Samiti Sikkati. Chitta Sankhara means here your volitional involvement toward the subtle feelings and the volitional involvement toward the subtle perceptions. That means once the gross kind of perceptions, gross kind of feelings are done away with, and if you are maintaining the mindfulness and the concentration into the deep layers, now only these natural manifestations or underlying tendencies of the feelings and perception going to come up. As and when it happens, the fabrication or new volitional activities, new will or motivations going to disturb your solitude, going to disturb your freedom. So therefore, it is not that you are suppressing this kind of underlying tendencies of the feeling and the perception. Not that you are allowing your willful actions or volitions to make new fabrications. There you have to make the balance. When and where these kind of feelings and the perception and volitional involvements happen, just take a step back and observe things as a mere neutral observer and see, even without your drive, directed dispositions or drives, something happens. Things are happening. As I mentioned, that whole thing happening could be categorized either as affective or connotative or cognitive. But that is also specific to specific different people. So one or the other unrelated, unconnected things are going to happen. When and where it happens, if you are going to assume them as this is me, this is mine and this is myself, or if you are going to have a choice, going to involve or you're going to commit, then knowingly or unknowingly, you are creating new karmic forces, sankhara. And therefore, the instructions of the Buddha is, when and where you are to observe this mano sankhara, or sometimes known as chitta sankhara, you must go prepared not to create new volitional activities, not to create new willful actions or develop any motivations. So therefore, when and where arises, you have to disclaim them as me, or as mine, or as myself. Instead, try to maximize the solitude. Try to maximize the freedom. Try to maximize the equanimity. So therefore, either you have to say, netang mama neso hamasvena meso atta. Even though some affectionate feelings are happening, you have to disclaim them as not me, not mine, not myself. Or otherwise you have to say, etan santang, etan panidang, adidang upekha. Instead of this getting involved with this kind of thing, it is better to be equanimous because it is very calm and quiet, collected. So therefore, one or the way, either way, you have to maintain this solitude, maintain this freedom. And there, the main attitudes, disposition is not to get committed. Given as an example, you are sitting on a dry bank of a river and you are observing the flow. River is ever flowing. And your main restrainment must be not to fork your fingers into the flow, into the water. If you fork the fingers, it will create a turmoil to the extent that your interference. And so much so you will get wet. So therefore, observing this, the world has their own universal laws, the chitta niyama, kamma niyama, bija niyama, utu niyama, the weather patterns, the mind patterns, and the kamma and kamma results. And all these things are happening, but if you are not instructed, if you are not prepared, if you are not prepared, often due to untrained mind, you try to get committed with. So therefore, same way, the way you worked with your breath, the way you worked with the feelings, and the way you worked with the perception, exactly the same way, you have to see them but not get carried away by them. Not let them to take you for a ride. So that is the training. Passambayang, Chitta Sankarang, Asasi Samiti Sikkati, Passambayang Chitta Sankarang, Pasasi Samiti Sikkati. Observing them and not getting involved is the main task there. Even if you accept it, even if you practice it, it's a huge problem arises. As far as there is no willful action, as far as there is no volitional activities, how then the motivation come into being? How that meditator motivated to practice the meditation? The will is the real thing, motivate someone. Or volition is the volitional formations are the thing motivate people to go for fame, gain, money and all the kind of thing. But now you try your best to withdraw the willful action and the volitional activities and directed dispositions, and then the mindset will going to develop this vacuum. If that is the case, how can you continue the meditation? And towards what and with what aim, with what objective you are going to do? So therefore, huge amount of entertaining of doubts. Or the uncertainty about whether you are in the correct path or wrong path. Appear like you are losing. You are lost. But only if you know that your whole endeavor is to develop the solitude and the freedom and the distance and the emancipation, there's the clue. Otherwise, the fear of freedom arises. Of course, you know much of volitional, the bodily activities, in the sense that even the breath is very calm and quiet. It is unperceivable. Even the visual, the mind-made visions, seeing object arises. Now you know not to get entangled with. Even if you hear background sounds, you are already restrained and docile and tamed, not to get entangled with them. Even little bodily feeling arises, not to get entangled with. But when the mind made its own unvolitional kind of activities, even there also, if you are going to withdraw it, only the problem is that the yogi will confronted with this, the motivational problem. So at that moment, only the way that can be put into words is, the person at that junction, at that moment, is practicing meditation very ardently, regularly, and as a duty, but he or she has no objective to achieve. And therefore, he or she will get lost if someone has to, second person to justify why I am meditating. Any kind of a object you are going to keep, that will going to give a willful action or volitional formations and kind of thing. Therefore, often the deductive knowledge will come forward and your direct touch will be lost the priority. So in this moment, many intellectual peoples, they think that I have to do something. So they think, what is the kind of object that now can introduce and keep on. That's why even in the perception, I mentioned some people think I have to remind anicca dukkha anatta, or everything is impermanent, everything is suffering, and everything is non-self. It's quite an artificial introduction through your a theoretical knowledge or deductive knowledge or rational mind, and that itself creating a will, creating a volition, motivation. Or some people think that I got a golden chance, there is no friction. Why should not I contemplate upon the repulsivity of the body? Or why should not I think about the past and the future, what was me and what I am going to be in the future? Or think about the relatives, or think about the dear and near ones. They appear like very quite possible options. Anything appear like falling dust upon your eye. Except water, anything fallen on your eye is irritating. So much so, you have to let go and keep the stream of consciousness undisturbed. So therefore the Buddha says, specifically in the Kajjaniya Sutta, is quite related with this sankhara. It says, Namo te purisajanya, namo te purisuttama, yasate na bidhanami, yampi nissaya jayati. The Buddha says not only the human, but even the Deva and Brahmas, they respect this great person who is practicing, but not to achieve something. You do not see any object, but keep on practicing. So this is the part very difficult to put into words. But if you are thinking in terms of solitude, in terms of freedom, in terms of emancipation, in terms of liberation, this is the point where you are liberated from the fabrications, liberated from volitional involvements. We are liberated from these directed dispositions, and the disclaimer going to happen, should happen. Otherwise, this choice and try to maximize the time by introducing concepts and deductive knowledges, that is the point very difficult for someone to influence. One has to correct one's own view beforehand. This is a kind of a rehearsal to give you a taste of Nibbana. If you have any kind of a wrong view regarding the Nibbana or the emancipation, everything you have to pay, everything you have to, everything the friction going to arise. So therefore, these are the points where, for the first time, going to know that this must be the state of ideal solitude, the ideal freedom, the ideal liberation, emancipation. So therefore, in the series of Vipassana Jnana or Vipassana knowledges, the last is known as Sankhara Upekkha. Sankhara Upekkha means the equanimity towards all the volitions, all the formations. So even if it is happening without your intention, you are not disheartening. You say, this is my mind, but I am not going to claim it as me, not as mine, not me. And likewise you see everything happening, but whether it is happening with the willfully or not, disclaiming is something like, it gives an example, when a drop of water fallen upon a petal of lotus, even if it holds, never smear, never touch the surface. When the petal is shaking, you can see the water bubble, the water droplets also shaking. Likewise, even though if you are living amidst of all the sankhara, willful people and emotional talks and all the kind of thing, you have to understand, if you have certain amount of ignorance, if you have a certain amount of darkness in your mind, so much so you will get agitated. But if you have the corrected view, or that means no view, then you see whatever the things happening right around, it is up to you to maintain this Sankhara Upekkha. So therefore in the dependent origination, it says, avijja paccaya sankhara, sankhara paccaya vijnana. If you have avijja, that means ignorance, the darkness, the simple unknowing or misperception, so much so you will get agitated when the outside impermanent thing happens. So up to the your avijja, you will get committed. You will hold it, commit it, and then whenever it is going to transient nature, you are the one to suffer. But even without your any commitment, things are happening. So if you are just an observer, that is the real meaning of vipassana. Vipassana means a kind of an observation, uninvolved, choiceless, unassuming, evenly suspended attention or suspended decision. This is the way one can define the equanimity. One can define the mind without much of volitional drive or volitional formation, and it cannot be achieved unless otherwise you go in the sequential order. But in our day-to-day activities, uninstructed commoner, what happens is, when you are with the open eyes and the ears are intact, and the nose, the tongue, the body, and the mind is open, enough visual objects are there, and enough sounds are there, smells, tastes, tactile sensation, and the mental objects. And if you are full of ignorance, you have to understand the mind cannot comprehend all these 6 at once. Mind has to select one. Mind cannot taste them, comprehend them, understand them. So therefore, up to the amount of ignorance, the sankhara take the upper hand and it do the selection. Sankhara is the one go between the avijja, the ignorance, and the consciousness. So sankhara take the upper hand according to your likings and dislikings, according to your personality, according to your past karmic combination. Sanskara select at that very given moment, I will see. That means I will not hear, I will not smell, I will not taste, I will not entertain touching or thinking. I will select the visual objects. That very selection happening according to whose agenda is the ever mystery. If you are really sharp, that is why very difficult to be mindful in the day-to-day activities, because so much of combinations are there. At a time you can be a hearer, you can be a seer, a smelling person, tasting person, touching with the feeling or thinking. Who is selecting? Who is taking this selective absorption? That is the sankhara. So, without that, the vijnana cannot function. It can't have everything. So, therefore, someone has to have the filter, the selection. So, vijnana take the upper hand and is motivated by the will, the volition, the liking and disliking, as I mentioned, the list. And when that happens, you reify whatever you see, so much you get absorbed, you never understand. By selecting that one, you have rejected 5. And not only that, you will say, I am talking with my direct touch. I have seen. So therefore, that I have seen is existing there. That what is existing, I have seen. This kind of argumenting happen without knowing that you have lost 5. So therefore, as far as sankhara is working, it is always have its choice, volition. And that is not always for the well-being of that being. towards the compassion of that being, it is always proliferating tanha mana ditti, the desire, the conceit, and the ego. So therefore, if the sankhara going to get the free will, it will ever proliferating this trend. So that vijnana will be fully fertilized, nurtured, and the thing is going. So instead what happens is, when you go to a forest or go to under a tree and come to a meditation center, of course meditation hall, and then you purposefully close your eyes, don't entertain sounds, no smelling, no tasting, touch also, you reduce to involuntary thing, happening without the volition. And then keep the track with, and let that track, that touch to ceases to exist, or go up to the unperceivable level. And once that happens, the Buddha says, the vijnana has no direct sensuous impingements. But still the vijnana is running. So under such circumstances, the Buddha says, yancha cheteti, yancha pakappeti, yancha anuseti, aramana metang hoti vijnanasa titya. Now vijnana has lost its basic foundation. Instead, it has to see an alternative arrangement, improvised, either a chetana, that means volitional activity, or pakappana, creative thinking, or underlying tendencies. So, in order to monitor the situation, the Buddha says, if you feel that you are come to a situation where the breath, in-breath and out-breath is your main object of meditation, but that also almost like ceases to exist. If there are no much of other distractions, just do away with chetana, do away with will, do away with volition. Do it in a very controlling way, restraining way. And then you can see pakappana, the prolific thinking, new ideas, bright things going to happen. So usually if you are not instructed, you claim this is my thought, this is my bright idea, this is my innovation, so that vijnana going to get the nutriments from that claiming. Instead, if you are disclaiming it, even though it is a very bright, good idea, if it is a real thing, it will come. Why should I stamp it? Why should I second it? Let it happen, disclaim it. Then only you can understand the underlying tendencies, the anusaya, and there you won't believe the amount of backlog you have brought from the past, maybe past lives. And they are working in such a unhindered way, and they whenever they manifest, the mind is yielding to it, and it is happening even without your consent. Ultimately, you have to suffer a loss. And therefore, anusaya, when it happens, still the same way, in a disclaiming manner, in a distance manner, if you observe it, you can see the solitude is defined in a very finest tuned way. You are getting distant from these things. You entertain kind of a freedom, and you see there is nothing new. If at all if there were some past karmic forces, they are in the wear and tear, weaning off, and more it is weaning off. The amount of avijja or the ignorance also in the process of wear and tear. And the sankhara, your volitional involvement, also there. And the vijnana also going to lose its foundation, its holding, its a base. And the patitita vijnana, it goes slowly going into the apatitita vijnana. That means vijnana loses its base, and therefore the continuum will be very instantaneous. It's very momentary, and there If you really know the idea of solitude, if you know really idea of freedom, you will appreciate it. Otherwise, you will be frightening. You will see everything is fragile. Everything is breakable, including your vijnana. So therefore, at that moment, you must develop the sankhara upekka, not to get hooked up with any formation. In order to give an example, that Venerable Katukurunde Jnananda he has mentioned, whenever you are using the sewing machine to stitch two pieces of clothes together, from top, the needle take a thread and penetrate into the down there, and underneath there's a bobbin full of threads. It is coming and putting a hook. Each time the needle comes. And they are tensed in such a way, each penetration is going to give a stitch. And when it is the sewing taking place, the two pieces of clothes get together. So each time the needle goes, it has to be hooked up by the bobbin. But imagine there are no threads in the bobbin. Then the needle goes, but there's no catch. So appear like there is a thread and the stitch. But when you remove it, the two pieces of clothes are not binding together, because there are no threads down there. The commoner, the Putujjana, is immediately filling the bobbin. That is your prime duty. Aryan is the only person, run the machine, appear like stitching, but he knows no threads in the bobbin. So even whatever the sensuous impingements comes from the senses, there is no reaction from inside. There is no reification from the inside. There is no recognizing of the inside. So therefore no stitch. There is no the bonding. That is no tanha. So therefore, even though it appears like a stitching, no stitching taking place. So this is how you have to understand the way the sankhara is working. So therefore, whenever the mind come to so-called inner space, or whenever the mind come to the whole body kind of experience, not only you must not entertain doubts, you already must have an idea to expand it as long as possible. So in the Mahavedala Sutta, it's asking how many factors or what are the proximate factors to have animitta ceto vimutti. The kind of a solitude, kind of a freedom, kind of emancipation, that there are no signs, there are no labels, there are no recognitions. So when Sariputta says, if you wish to entertain that signless kind of liberation, kind of solitude, kind of freedom, sabba nimittanang amanasikara. Whatever the signs arising, whatever the hints arising, whatever the thing arising, you must not hooked up with them. You must not pay attention to it. You must not divert your mind to them. So therefore, even at that time, some bodily sensation may arise, some perception may arise, or some thoughts and creativity arises. When that happens, if you are going to note it, that what happens is you are appreciating it. You are getting committed. So therefore, main thing is you have to expect they are coming, but ignore them. And animittacha dhatuya manasikara. You must expect the signless situation. You must expect this labelless, no labels, things are happening that I would say everything now in a primordial form, they have not manifested as visual objects or sounds or taste or smell or touch or mental. It does boil down to the primordial form, not manifested, don't let them manifest into the matter or any mentality. So let that be in the primordial form. That is animitta cha dhatuya manasikara. You must expect that to happen. And pubbecha abhisankara. You must have a determination beforehand, if you are to go there, to be as long as possible. No sign, no tendency, no motivation, no any other impingements, and consider this as a rather advantageous situation as far as these volitional activities are concerned. Of course, it is not only advantageous in the volitional, it is an advantageous situation regarding the corporeality, feelings, perception, and the formation. So, recognizing or recognition of that situation is directly related with your correct view and your foresight. If you do not understand it, if you do not appreciate it, if you do not maximize it, what will happen is either you will entertain doubts or conceptual ideas or deductive or theoretical things will come and completely distract it. So therefore ultimately you will get up listlessly, bored. You will get up so much uncertainty because of lack of this the proper view and the proper the foresight. So therefore not only by meditation you can reach it. Of course meditation will lead to that, but you will get bewildered. You will feel lost, but no signs. And no motivational, no willful, no volitional thing happens. And you feel like paralyzed. And specifically the stream of consciousness will be so fragile. So under such circumstances, the understanding of the idea of ideal solitude or the freedom from this sankhara or distance from the sankhara, emancipation from this sankhara is very important. So soon after the Buddha achieved this his omniscient knowledge, he says, Aneka jati sansarang sandha visang anibbisang gahakarang gave santo dukkha jati punapuna. Gahakarang gave santo dukkha jati punapuna. Gahakarang dittosi punagehannakasi sabbate pasuka bagga gahakutang visankita. Visankhara gatan chittang. He says, I was chasing in my life after the death to see the house builder. And I only see already built houses. But whenever he going to trace back with the course, this time he see the house builder and he challenged the man, no more houses for me. I have thrashed you all the reefs and the beams and all the kind of thing, and my mind is free of formations now. Visankhara gatan chitta. And that is what he was hunting for. That's the one he was searching for. So therefore, soon he come up to that level. It was a hilarious feeling and a good thing for him that is possible in this life. That is possible if you cut through in a systematic way. So therefore, in the worldly matters, our sankhara, our will, our volition, our motivations are highly valued. So with such a motivational world, how can one introduce this visankhara or volitionless situation as the prime goal? There the Buddha says, I designed, I fabricated, I created this Eight Noble Path. It itself is a sankhara. Eightfold Path is itself is sankhara. That is the only sankhara can cut off all the other sankharas. He categorically mentioned, therefore, doing meditation itself is a sankhara, but not to create more sankhara and slowly cut off little by little. In a Tibetan master, once you go to America, he has mentioned, if you analyze it and see, all the appointments are leading to disappointments. It's a universal truth. So therefore, if you wish to have no disappointments, best thing is to have an appointment with the disappointment. Then you will be never a loser. So when you are dealing with the sankhara also, you have to keep that in your mind. And you have to have a kind of idea, what is the nature of Nibbana, what is the nature of ideal solitude, what is the nature of ideal total freedom. That is not outside, it is your own volitional activity, your own motivational activity, your own will. So, when the Western philosophy is concerned, everything attributed to the omnipotent, omnipresent God. God is doing. So only you have to do is satisfy the God, pray, and at the end of the life, you will be either selected to the purgatory, to the everlasting peace, or to the hell. And therefore, will is not allowed for the creatures. It is the matter of Creator. But the Bertrand Russell, analyzing, he says, the Saint Aquinas, analyzing, he see if this is the kind of thing, some people will be moral, some people will be immoral, and therefore very difficult to do it. So he presented the thesis. He told there is a will, even to a creature. And if we make use that will and teach the fellow, he will be rather moral. Because you can make use this attribution of will to teaching, and after teaching you can teach them these are the dangers happen with due to the immorality and kind of thing. So therefore, it was a great convincing for the Catholic Church. Ultimately, he says that Saint Aquinas won the game. Even as the traditional, authentic saint, he just got a chance to introduce the will into the theistic idea. And later he became the father of education in the Western psychology, or Western history. So when he was teaching, and he showed the good part of teaching, that people are becoming disciplined and moral and all the kind of thing. But when the Buddhism first went to Germany, maybe 250 years ago, the Arthur Schopenhauer, he analyzed the subject of the will. And he boldly mentioned, each will is evil. Whatever the chances given to the commoner, he always misuse for the unfortunate situation to himself or herself. So everyone was so unhappy, and they categorized the Arthur Schopenhauer as destructive, as nihilist. And then, of course, he did not run the fight, but instead of Nietzsche, he took it, he whacked the situation, and he told what Arthur Schopenhauer telling was correct, and this is what it happens. He analyzed in a nice way. So this is what the Buddha says, sabbe sankhara dukkha, sabbe sankhara anicca. Whatever the volitional thing you do, whatever the willful action you do, everything is impermanent. Instead, what you do is, the impermanent nature of the world, by intrinsically, naturally, you take part of it, you commit to part of it, and when that your part become impermanent, you are the sufferer. Instead, if you leave it as a nature, leave it as the Taoism, or Tathatha, as the Buddha mentioned, you are not committing to recognize or justify one part. You leave it to the nature. No volitional involvement, no the willful action. And then you can understand each and every will, each and every sankhara is anicca, dukkha. But very difficult to do it in the conventional situation. But if you strategically apply it in the kaya sankhara, vachi sankhara, mano sankhara method, easily you can prove it, you can verify it in this very life. Or otherwise, to the extent you apply the effort, you can verify it, you can justify it proportionately. So when you become more and more mature, when you are to develop more and more inside knowledges, you rather recognize what is happening under your very nose. As and when it happens, you are very vigilant, very diligent, very mindful, and try to be a silent observer, distance observer, rather than committing or arriving at a decision. In order to come up to that level, you must have a bodily restrainment, verbal restrainment, and free from the obsessional kind of defilements. Then only you can go deep into that situation. And very difficult to compare this mindset together with the conventional truth. That may be the reason that understanding the teaching, the Nehru, the Prime Minister in India, he told, I doubt whether the teaching of the Buddha can be applied to the society at large. But he says, anyway, if you are to practice, you are assured with results. So when you come to the sankhara, it is happening only here, now, I am. It never happened in the time dimension or the space dimension or in the plural terms. It is happening in the singular term, here, now. And once it happens, very difficult to communicate with others, difficult to share with others, and very difficult for you to impose upon others. Your mindset must be really understanding in terms of understanding the Nibbana, or in terms of understanding the solitude, or in terms of understanding the freedom, in terms of understanding emancipation. So in that sense only, one day you will reach this signless situation and then try to dwell upon that. That is not the Nibbana. But anyway, it is a must for you to advance further, to become mature. At one stage, be with this signless situation. Signless situation is of course related to the perception, but when there is happening, maybe some signs, maybe some hints, maybe some thoughts, but not to get hooked up with, not to get commit with, is the sankhara contribution. Anything you do willfully is become sankhara. So therefore, observing in a neutral way, ultimately you will come up to the real core, heart of the mind. As far as it is at the superficial level, peripheral level, outer cortex is highly engaged. Highly engaged in the eye as well as the visual objects, ear as well as the sounds, likewise all the six senses. But when you're meditating, you can see it come to a internalization, where it come to the primordial form. You are rather free or cut off from the sensations, but still mind works based upon chetana, pakappana and anusaya. That means your volitional activities, your creative thinking and underlying tendency. They also you have to penalize, you have to cull, you have to do away with one by one, and that is a hardcore, deep vipassana. But in order to do it, your human body and the human mind is fully equipped laboratory. Very, very sophisticated laboratory. Each time you meditate, often you go to that state, but unlucky enough you doubt. Unlucky enough, you try to be smart. Unlucky enough, you wanted to play this and that. Unlucky enough, you are chasing bad results. All are becoming a root cause, proximate cause for the sankhara to arise. So therefore, in order to do away with the sankhara, you have to have a real understanding about the real solitude, the ideal solitude, and the freedom, the emancipation. So the day you understand it, you will appreciate your past mistakes. They are the proximate thing. Without so much of mistakes, not by a single sermon, not overnight, not by performing other rituals, you can reach it. And the important thing, or most paradoxical thing is, the day you recognize, next moment you will understand path for it. There is no particular path. There is no set path. You have done or you have tested all the kind of paths. The day you recognize, immediately you will understand, this is the path and this is not the path. So therefore, when the Buddha is presenting the Four Noble Truths, he showed the truth of suffering and cause for truth of suffering. And then he told this liberation, the Nirodha Satya. After that only the path knowledge comes. Because that your path is intrinsically written according to your complexity. You are not. So therefore don't ask path from the others. The Buddha gives the general guidelines. And when you go there, your commitment must be there. Commitment to not to create sankhara, but not to commit anything. That you have to assimilate yourself. Therefore, as far as the middle path is concerned, it is not a set or simple sense that you can't buy it in the supermarket. You have to have all the other qualifications and reach again and again, 1,001 times of the trial and error. The day you appreciate it, the signless situation, or feelingless situation, or materialless situation, and don't get, instead of getting lost, feeling of lost, or cornered, or outcasted, or boredom, or fear of freedom, instead of understanding this as the ideal solitude, it's a huge breakthrough. Wishing and hoping this talk also will be helpful for you to understand this ideal solitude. I will sum up this today's talk. Thank you very much for listening.